Good evening. We're going to call the meeting for Akron City Council to order at this time. Our clerk will read the roll.
Bolden.
Aye.
Boyes. Connor. Davis. DeShazier.
Aye.
Fusco. Garrett.
Present.
Hannah.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick. Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
All members are present.
For those who voluntarily wish to do so, would you please stand at this time as we are led in prayer by Pastor Brian Nutt of Oak Hill Presbyterian Church. Immediately following our prayer, I'm going to ask if Councilman DeSazier will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us do observe a prayerful attitude. God of heaven and earth, we give thanks for the opportunity that we have to be stewards of what you have granted to us. We thank you for the people of this community that look to us for leadership. We pray that you will grant to us your wisdom and always the kind heart that is reflective of the love we have come to know from the God who imagined all of us and all that we know into existence. We pray with a full heart in the name of Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The minutes from our previously held meeting have been provided. Are there any additions or corrections?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
The motion to approve the minutes passes 13-0.
At this time, we're going to move to our public comment period. All those who have signed up to participate, I'm going to ask that you please stand at this time so that you may be sworn in by our clerk.
Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just going to ask when you hear your name to approach the podium. Just as a reminder, you will have 3 minutes to speak to this body. And we are going to begin with Chief Dominique Mingo, Danielle Easton. Are you here with us? Danielle Easton. John Slater.
Good evening, council and the public. I appreciate this opportunity to speak to you this evening. My address is 950 Main Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio. I represent the several clients that I've identified just because of the time limitations here. They're in an objection letter that I sent earlier today, and if you want me to identify them, I will. But they're identified in the letter I sent. We have a continued objection to the proposed conditional use. We don't believe that there has been sufficient evidence and reliable and probative evidence to support the granting of the conditional use. Specifically, your code requires you to study and analyze the evidence presented before you to determine whether it's appropriate and the conditional use should be granted. And the burden is on the applicant to do that. The facts are this. It's claimed that the city and Waste Management have been working for years on this project. That's the claim. The fact is that most people affected, the individuals in this community that spoke here, never knew that this was coming up or was coming in. And even the councilman wasn't aware of this. The other wards had meetings, the other wards had communications, but the people in this community simply did not know. And that's not right. That's not appropriate due diligence. Additionally, the representations that were made during these meetings were always, it's a state-of-the-art facility. Don't worry, it's a state-of-the-art facility. However, all the evidence, quote, evidence that supposedly supported this was received by this body, I believe, a day or two before your October 3rd meeting. I got it the day before, you got it a couple days before. All those reports. And your planning staff and otherwise had said they studied and analyzed it, but they went out and had these meetings, and no one knew what those reports said. And specifically on the odor report, if you, again, characterize that as a report, I believe it's nothing more than a marketing piece. There's no study, no analysis. But what does it say? The odor person represented, yes, these kind of facilities have odors. That's why they have their business. But their system is subject to the weather, it's subject to the temperature, the humidity, the wind, which clearly can affect it. So how do you deal with it? Have an appropriate distance away. This is too close. Finally, your planning director made some comments at the end of the meeting. We didn't have an opportunity to cross-examine him, but he talked about his communication with the Ohio EPA. That person wasn't here. They weren't under oath, and so I object to the proceedings to the extent you consider any of that. But it's not the Ohio EPA's job basically to enforce your zoning regulation. Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dan Sublett?
Yep. Okay. Good evening. Thank you for your time again. I'm sure we'll be shorter this time around. Just as a follow-up to a couple of items from our previous meeting, on Saturday I did have the opportunity, because of one of my kids' volleyball tournaments up in Solon, to go by the Oakwood facility. As I mentioned, I'd never been there before, and so I had an opportunity between games and after the games to drive by and see how it was operated. And what I found was what I suspected. All doors open the entire time. Not one trash truck pulling in or out, no public drop-off. And so I took some photos in between games. Then after the volleyball tournament, I went back. Doors still open, trash still blowing all over the parking lot. Streets on the way to the facility looked dirty and grimy. And so, again, it just reinforces that we've got an organization who says they operate in one fashion, but clearly operates in another. I also reviewed my notes with Vince from Waste Management, who I mentioned, and 100% absolutely did he mention a phase 1 and a phase 2 to this project. To this date, I don't think you all have been educated or informed about what phase 2 is or could be, which is a problem, because if they believe that there's a phase 2 to this and we're not talking about it, you're absolutely being misled. We received the site selection criteria, the PowerPoint. In there, when you look at the Archwood facility, it mentions a compost and other future green initiatives that the City of Akron or Waste Management would like to enter into. What does that mean? Is that really what the other 6 acres is for that we don't actually know today? So there are a tremendous amount of unknowns. And an Akron Beacon Journal article was just released within the last few days, and Councilwoman Connor quoted that the Archwood facility would be less detrimental. Well, in order to be less detrimental, then you have to acknowledge that it is detrimental. And those words and that concept is in direct violation with 153.474 Section F, which is part of your code to grant a conditional use. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Pastor Lorenzo Glenn?
Good evening, Madam President. My name is Pastor Glenn. I, again, pastor a church on the east side of Akron, McKinley and virtually Arlington Street. It's McKinley and Winans, to be specific. I thought I'd come tonight. I'm representing the pastors and the preachers, and especially those pastors that have ministries in the footprint of where this waste management facility is going in. I have an obligation to my congregation, to the community. And there's a verse of scripture that solidifies that for me and every preacher that would come and speak publicly in a matter like this. It's found in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 1. The Apostle Paul says, "Therefore, seeing that we have this ministry, as we have received mercy, we faint not, but have renounced the hidden things of dishonesty, not walking in craftiness, nor handling the word of God deceitfully, but by manifestation of the truth, commending ourselves to every man's conscience in the sight of God." That's a mandate for me and anyone else that is serious about ministry and sharing the word. And I believe that same level of integrity belongs with every member of this city council. I was here Thursday. I stayed for half of that marathon, and then I drug home. But anywhere in the nation, garbage and the poor go together. Garbage and poor folk go together. Garbage and polluted water go together. We're disenfranchised, marginalized. It's always the case. And I made mention on last Thursday, I can't thank God enough for those individuals that were around the facility on Fountain Street finally be relieved. I believe that, indeed, one generation plants the trees while another generation enjoys the shade. It comes afterwards. And we have to make sure that we're still planting them so no one will have to just do the heat of going without. I feel like this tonight. It's one thing to insult me. It's another thing to think I'm too stupid to know I've been insulted. That's terrible. I'm not witty enough. Or doesn't have enough ingenuity to know I've been
Pastor
insulted.
Glenn, I'm so sorry.
Oh, I was warming up.
I know. I'm sorry. Your time is up. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I don't know what to do.
Gary Donato.
Thank you. I'm up here to talk again. I'm going to try to stay calm this time, but stating to all you guys, the facts are simple. This site is the wrong location for this transfer station, and many of you know it. The example used up there at the Oakwood facility, we have filmed, taken pictures, and spent many hours at that facility. They say that it's a garbage dump. Well, what they're using is a solid waste facility. That's their term. Solid waste, you guys, if you look at the definition of it, is garbage is just one thing of it. But when we talk to the trucks leaving that facility, we talk to other municipalities that dump there, they said it is strictly a recycle place and a solid waste place, which is construction debris, drywall, steel metal studs, concrete, and all the other things that go on that. And we watched it for days. And the guys come out to the fence today and said, "Who are we?" And we told them. From one point to the other, from Bay 6 to that, it's a solid waste. Never seen one garbage truck. You guys are being misled. And people in this community and people in that mayor's office know you're being misled. And I'm telling you right now, when you sign up with them, you're stuck with them for the next 30 years. And how in the world do they go through here and get an opportunity to do this without having a chance for a public bid? Something stinks. Shouldn't you have a public bid for your trash removal? I see it happen in all the other communities that I've been into. I'm not sure how that happens. And the people here are not insignificant. They make like they're insignificant. The wind's going to blow to the west all the time. Well, I tell you, I talked to the Akron-Canton. I looked up the Akron-Canton site in the weather report. Over 100 days a year, it blows from the east, it blows from the northeast and the southeast. That's fact. Just look at it. So over 100 days, the people of the community have to live with all of the smell. There's going to be trucks parked there overnight, which is not at Fountain Street. They're not at the Oakwood site. So people, you got to look at it. You can't do this to this people and the community that's there. What's going to happen to the streets is going to be an environmental nightmare. And people in that administration know it and why they're pushing it and not looking at other sites that are available out there and looking harder is wrong. So I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you. Michelle?
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Michelle Molyneux, and I'm the Chief Financial Officer for J.W. Dowdo Electric at 1033 Kelly Avenue. I'm here today as a representative of the company to express my opposition and concerns for the proposed waste management transfer facility located on Archwood Avenue. As my role of CFO, I'm responsible for identifying the financial risks to our organization and to make sure that our company stays in financial health. And I really do feel that this project does present a financial risk not only to our organization, but also to our employees as well as the neighbors around us. One thing my parents always told me, if you can't do something in the light, you shouldn't do it at all. And I feel like because we haven't been communicated with, whether it was a notification to our company or the surrounding residents, that there's something that just isn't in the light right now on this project. JWD has been a City of Akron company for more than 60 years. We employ over 1,000 skilled workers. While most of those are in the field throughout Ohio as well as neighboring states, we still have 130 employees that we employ at our Kelly Avenue and triplet facilities. We've spent a significant amount of resources to improve those properties. We recently acquired them, another significant investment. And through that, our whole goal is to create an environment where our employees can enjoy the outdoors. We put in a pond, a walking track, our employees go out and walk, and I really feel like if we have this environmental concern in our own backyard, that we are going to actually take away from the investment that we've put into the company so that these employees can have not only a place they have physical activity, but also emotional well-being. Not like being in the office for 12 hours behind a desk, and people want to get out and enjoy the weather when they can. Now, I wasn't here for the council meeting last Thursday, but I was able to watch as WM presented their case. And while the plan seemed, great from the beginning, I have major concerns about the traffic increase that will be in the neighborhood. Also, the rise in the disease-carrying pests that will be present because of this facility and the airborne contaminants. It's not only a loss to the community if residents or our employees can't enjoy the outdoors, but really it's a loss financially too, and I'm concerned about our property values going down because really who wants to live next to this facility? In closing, I want to thank the council for the opportunity to voice my concerns and identify items I feel that are an issue to our existing business. We have been very supportive in this community. We have been a member of the community on Kelly Avenue for a very long time. And I just want to remind council too that, what's keeping this new facility becoming the old Fountain facility? Thank you.
Thank you. Maria?
Madam President, am I able to yield my turn to someone else?
You sure can.
I'd like to yield it to Ramon, please, one of the neighbors.
And just when you approach the podium, I'm just going to ask that you be sworn in, okay?
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, I do.
I do.
Thank you.
How's everybody doing? I'm a life.
And please state your name for the record, okay?
My name's Ramon Drummond.
Thank you.
Lived in East Akron all my life. 2 points. Lived there all my life. I remember when the dump was there at where Joy Park is 40 years ago. We used to go down there and pick pop bottles out of there and run around with the rats then. I'm a homeowner in East Akron off of Archwood. My question is who's gonna pay for the streets when we start getting, potholes and the cleanup and all of that, that stuff's gonna get tracked back to the house and everything. That's another concern. It's just, they moved the dump once, why bring it back? That's just my thing, we dealt with that years when I was a little kid. And now they want to bring it back. It's just saddening, and I don't know why. There's something that's not being told, the reason why they want to bring it back after 40 years. And I'm sure anybody that live in East Akron remember that dump. And it's an old saying, we go back like flow models and pop bottles. A lot of people don't even know what a flow model TV is anymore, and pop bottles. A lot of people don't know what a glass bottle is in a pop. But yeah, it's just a bad thing, and it just stinks all the way around. I know it's a trash tub, but it stinks all the way around. That's just my opinion, but we're not welcoming it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Drummond, for sharing. Quintella?
Madam President, family, friends, and the community, hello, family. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. This is a day we have never seen, and we're not going to see it again, because we're not going to see that dump there. We're not going to see it. There was a song by Mays, Back in Strive Again. We're not going to be back in Strive again to have that dump in our area. As Ramon has said, that Joy Park sat there 40 years ago, and I have heard Reverend Glenn say, from the west to the east and from the north to the south, wind blows. Every Wednesday, the trash get picked up in Ward 5. And if you go by the night, especially on a hot day, not just a cold day, cold days too, but a hot day, that garbage stink from one door to the next door. So we're going to close those doors and open up new doors that we do not have that dump there. I call it a dump, not a waste, because as I said last Thursday, that's a lot of toilet paper to clean up. I don't want to say the word. Therefore, we do not need it. Our church, Zion Temple Baptist Church, 515 Ardella, is built on there. There's the subsidized home back in the day, they say projects, was where the dump was. People that dump, that smell when that apple pie was being cooked, it was smelling the dump. We don't need chitlins, but I'm not going to say the word. Again, we don't need that in the neighborhood. Our councilmen that we had before need to communicate with our churches, with our agency, communicate with our neighbors to let us know and be aware of what's coming into our community. I have heard that it comes in the poor neighborhood. We're not poor. We're just not going to live poor. We rich, because it tells me that God supply all our needs according to his riches and glory. And we could do all things through Jesus Christ who strengthens us. So he's going to supply. Okay, that's my bell.
Thank you, Quintella. Basma?
Hello, good evening. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having me. I want to talk about Nakba Day. Is today. No, it's Nakba Day is this is the year 75 of the Nakba. It is the Palestinians' experience of it, of disposition and loss of our homeland in Palestine. Nakba in Arabic means catastrophe, including ethnic cleansing, genocide, massacres, imprisonment of the native Palestinians, stripping them of their land and homes and properties. Between 1947 and 1949, Zionist occupiers attacked major cities and destroyed more than 530 villages in Palestine. More than 15,000 Palestinians were murdered in mass atrocities, including hundreds of massacres. They were stealing their children, breaking their homes, breaking the families apart. On April 9, 1948, Zionist colonies committed one of the infamous massacre of the war in the village of Deir Yassin on the western outskirts of Jerusalem. Hundreds of men, women, and children were murdered in cold blood by members of pre-Israeli state Irgun and Stern, gang Zionist militias. More than 58 official Palestinian refugee camps have been created and operated by the UNRWA. They exist now in Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, Gaza, West Bank, and East Jerusalem. UNRWA was established by the United Nations Relief and Works Agency to help the displaced Palestinians who were expelled during 1948. The camps were initially the outcome of the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians through their displacement and dispossession of land, property, and belongings. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. That concludes our public comment period.
Excuse me, Madam President. We have one person that signed up virtually, Tara Mosley Weems, and she is here.
Thank you. And you want to swear her in?
Could you please raise your right hand? Thank you. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, Tara, sorry about that. You can proceed.
That's okay. That's fine. Good evening, council and community. I am here today, again, to reaffirm my continued support for the relocation of WM facility to the East Archwood location. This move is critical to steps forward in improving Akron's waste management infrastructure. However, I must express grave concern regarding the atmosphere of the recent public hearing and the way some residents were treated. It is troubling that many residents who may have had questions or wanted to share their perspectives were not given a fair chance to be heard due to Mr. Gary Didado's disrespectful behavior. He not only disrespected, but also sought to bully and intimidate residents, including myself, who supported the relocation. Even as I spoke with Councilwoman Connor from across the room, Mr. Didado's behavior was disruptive and hostile, creating an environment that stifled open discussion. There is a way to make this work for everyone, without bullying, without pitting one East Akron neighborhood against another, and without attempting to malign Black residents against white residents. This situation is not truly about environmental justice. It's about over 25 years of waste management being in a location that they were supposed to move from. So the last 3 years of my time on council, we've been looking for a location. This did not happen overnight. There's a lot of residents who said, why weren't they located? And as somebody who sat on council, there's a radius in which they have to send letters out to. A lot of these residents are on the south side of East Akron, and that's why they didn't receive a letter. However, it is incumbent upon us to be in this capacity to make sure that the residents are aware. I know many are attempting to frame this as a Ward 5 issue, but the reality is this is an Akron issue. This is not about whether the location is in Ward 5, Ward 6, or 10. In fact, only a railroad track separates Ward 5 from 110 on this location. There's been a lot of back and forth about Waste Management being millionaires and doing all the pretty renderings. But one thing that I will say that has been very concerning to me is the fact that residents that I've known my entire life and known me before I was born were enticed by a breakfast and then shipped down to city council on buses to sit there unbeknownst to them without them knowing the whole facts and the truth. And I think that is very disrespectful to those residents who I hold near and dear. And I may not be the voice for Ward 5, but they do respect me enough to call me and ask questions. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public comment period. I do want to thank all those who have come down to participate. Council members, before you is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
The consent agenda passes 13-0.
We'll now move into old business, planning and economic development. Councilman Fusco. Time will be granted. That concludes our old business. We'll now move into new legislation.
I'm on the agenda.
Yes.
Just something quick. Madam President, we've heard hours of testimony from proponents and opponents regarding this conditional use. We've also had the opportunity to review the extensive written record that's full of reports, information, arguments from both proponents and opponents. Therefore, I move to call the previous question, close the debate, and have a vote to approve or disapprove this petition for conditional use.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Councilman Hanna?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our previous councilwoman spoke about being able to speak for Ward 5. Let me bring out a few subjects and points that I think you should know. It was just 4 months ago that she got on Facebook. She got on Facebook and talked about me. My house had caught on fire. She got on Facebook and she said, jumping up and down, that I set my house on fire. It was on Facebook for 2 or 3 days. Now, for her to point the finger at someone else, I think is in poor taste. I don't really think she lives in Ward 5 now, and she admitted it just today, a few minutes ago, that she didn't live in Ward 5. She's speaking for Waste Management, and my question is she getting paid? She don't live in Ward 5 now. If you recall, just 7 months ago, she was all in with Ward 5. You couldn't have came into Ward 5 and said nothing bad about Ward 5 because she would have defended Ward 5. That's what I'm doing. I'm defending Ward 5, and I will defend Ward 5 until the end. Again, I want you to think about this. Anyone that would accuse someone of setting their house on fire, what do you think about them? How can you perceive that they're saying the right thing and doing the right thing? And some of the administration, they know that she was jumping up and down on Facebook saying that I set my house on fire. She just won't accept that she's not sitting in this seat anymore. But let me be plain and clear. I am a community person, and my constituents and my council people, you should also listen to the residents of Ward 5. I don't care how they got down here. They came in numbers. They came in numbers. If they could have walked, if it was across the street, they would have been here. But they came in numbers last Thursday. It doesn't matter how they got here. And last but not least, my colleagues, I would like for you to take in consideration, do me this favor, raise your hand, tell me if you want this waste management transfer center in your ward. Can I get a hand? No. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. So currently, the motion on the floor is a motion to call, and specify that again, call the question. Okay, so that's the motion, that's the second. Did you have a comment, Donnie, before? Sure.
Thank you, Madam President. I know we have a motion and a second. I just want to see if we can read in for the record what we're voting on, please.
Yeah, so the very first thing is that we're not actually voting on the item. We're actually taking the vote to make the vote tonight. Is that correct? Okay. All right. And before we do that, I have to say something, okay? I've been around this horseshoe for a long time, and there's one thing that we have always done, and that is to have courtesy of the ward council person when it comes to an issue in their ward. And the reason I'm saying that is because Councilman Hanna has asked the chair, Councilman Fusco, for time. And the reason he asked for time was so that there could be a community meeting held in Ward 5. One of the things that we talked about just on last Thursday was the fact that, to me, it seems intentional now that there were meetings held in Ward 10 and also in Ward 6, but not held in Ward 5. And to take this vote tonight without hearing and allowing the residents of Ward 5 to hear the same exact presentation that the residents in Ward 10 heard, the same exact presentation that Ward 6 residents heard, is deplorable. And I am so disheartened that this is the move that we're making. We talked about it, and let's just call it for what it is. And I know we don't want to talk about it. I talked about it a little bit last night on Thursday when we were here for quite some time. We have an opportunity to do something new and not to do and repeat history of what has happened to depressed neighborhoods for the past 30, 40 plus years. And that's just to engage them. That's just to come to the community and talk with them. Make sure that they don't have any concerns, answers their questions. I'm having a really hard time of understanding why that cannot happen. I also have to share this. Chris Luttle gave me an opportunity to go up to the Oakwood facility to see it. And I decided that I would do that because my only point of reference of what WM's transfer stations looked like was Fountain Street. And we know what those conditions are, right? They are in deplorable condition. So I went up to view the Oakwood site. And of course, when I got there, it was clean. A lot of trash trucks coming in. I told myself that I was going to try and count the garbage trucks as they come in, and I couldn't because there were so many. They were coming every 1, 2, 3 minutes, back to back, back to back, back to back. we had heard some concerns about the fact that the Oakwood site is not really a transfer station. It's not really what's coming to Akron. And so I took it upon myself to say, well, let me go there myself and see. Not on a planned visit, not when they know that I'm coming, but just to pop up and see for myself. I was there this morning, and what I saw was nothing like what I saw on my planned visit when you were expecting me to be there. The facility was deplorable. There was trash everywhere. And I was there for a whole hour, and I didn't see not one garbage truck pull into that facility and dump. Not one. But this is supposed to be the model. This is what's coming to Akron. I was there 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock. I know you pick up trash at 4 o'clock. Somebody had to dump at some point. I didn't see one single garbage truck. So what I'm hoping is that when I showed up for that visit, I'm hoping that it wasn't a staged thing, but I'm feeling as if I was misled. And the fact that I feel that way makes me even more concerned that the residents in Ward 5 are being misled in terms of what's really coming to their neighborhood. And the fact that this body would rush this vote on tonight, not giving Ward 5 residents an opportunity to speak their piece, ask their questions, and make sure that Waste Management, WM, is going to be accountable to their word, I think is deplorable. Councilman Fusco?
Thank you. I would like to ask my colleagues to please look at their agenda. And I would like to ask you to look before rules, okay? Before rules, and after the consent agenda, it says time. It is not appointed to a committee. Last week, President Somerville ran the public hearing. I did not. It was made very clear to me, this is not in the planning committee. I had requested to pull the committee. I was told I cannot pull the committee because it's not in my committee. This is not my call. I got a call from Mr. Hanna on Saturday. He asked me if I would take time. I'm like, sure, but it's not my committee. But yeah, I mean, I'm okay with time, and I'm still okay with time. So for someone to accuse me of not backing up my word, I'm offended. Because my word is my bond, and I told Mr. Hanna, as far as I'm concerned, we could take time. And whenever we take this vote, I will vote for time. And then, I believe after that, then we should probably talk about the waste management, also about the waste management specifically, and not bring up all the other stuff. So I will hold my comments for that vote.
Thank you so much. Councilwoman Davis?
Thank you, Madam President. I can in good conscience support this without hearing from the residents of Ward 5. That is just the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Kamer?
Thank you, Madam President. I was ready to vote in favor of this tonight because I think it's a good move. And I've done my research. But if leadership is asking us to, continue to take time and obviously get this back into the planning committee, because I am vice chair of the planning committee, then I'm going to have to say, I'm willing to take the time. But let's get going. Whoever's responsible to have this meeting or these meetings, let's get going. To be honest, we've known about this since July. I mean, we all get stuff put in our mailbox, and we have to do our due diligence as elected officials to make sure that we're looking out for our residents, communicating, having any potential meetings, trying to communicate with the administration as best as we can. So let's get going. I mean, seriously, now you're just putting more time on something that, to be honest with you, should have been done over the summer. Like, I just looked at my mailbox this evening, and I see what's coming to the Planning Commission in Ward 7. I'm doing my job. I'm researching, I'm making phone calls, and et cetera. So that's what I encourage my colleagues to do if they're not with how the system works. But like I said, I know I'll say it again, but I'm prepared to, vote in favor, because this is actually 2 miles from my house. The current Fountain Street one is actually 2.1 miles from my house. So, it's the same distance either way. I think WM did a pretty good job presenting to us. But yeah, I know I've said this again, but I got to say it again, because here I am stuck down here. I was in a 9-hour meeting last week where my dogs were home. I couldn't even go home to, take care of them at the time. Do some other things that I had planned to do that I had to cancel because I was in a 9-hour meeting. So the reason I'm saying all this is we as elected officials have to make sure that we are holding community meetings, reaching out to our constituents, and making sure we're doing what needs to be done. But if I had to vote tonight, I would vote yes. But if leadership is in favor of taking time, then I'm willing to take time. But we got to move forward, because I'm not going to continue to take time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Kamer. Councilman McKittrick?
Thank you, Madam President. There's just one thing I want to clarify. You spoke of that there was a meeting for WM in Ward 10 and Ward 6. And yes, there was, but that wasn't special. Councilman Hanna was there because Councilman Hanna only has meetings every other month and did not have a meeting that month. So I was approached by multiple people asking me if he could be there and if his residents could be there. And I said, absolutely. He was there. Councilwoman Connor was there. There were residents from outside my ward that were there. So there was an opportunity for folks from Ward 5 to come to my meeting and see this presentation. So I don't think that it's Ward 10's fault or Ward 6's fault that Councilman Hanna didn't have a meeting that month. We more than happily had him to my meeting and any of his constituents that wanted to come to it. So just wanted to make that point real clear.
Thank you, Councilman McKittrick. And just to be real clear, I wasn't saying that it was Ward 10's fault or Ward 6's fault that, Ward 5 didn't have an opportunity, right? Because at the end of the day, we're talking about something as major as relocating a waste transfer station. Ward 5 residents should not have to travel to any other community to get the information. It should be brought to them. That was my point, okay? And I want to make sure, is there any other council members who wanted to speak who did not get an opportunity first? Councilwoman Amobian?
I guess that what I'm trying to understand, and I haven't been to Oakwood yet. I've had a number of things going on, and I haven't been there yet. Why wasn't there a meeting of some kind held in the ward? Is there a reason? Other than the fact that you have your meeting? Because you could have a special call meeting. You don't have to have a scheduled meeting if it's something this critical. Because, most of us have been looking at these facilities and I went to Fountain Street and I go to that area all the time because I eat a lot at Taste of Bangkok. That area is terrible. And those people have suffered greatly. But I think this question has to do with whether or not we take the vote tonight, right? So perhaps I should hold my comments after that, and then I will say whatever I need to say at that time.
Thank you. Are there any other comments at this time? Councilman Hanna?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I must address something, and that is when I was invited to Ward 10 and Ward 3, is that 3 or 6? 6 meeting, I was under the impression that the waste transfer station was going to be in one of their wards, not Ward 5. never, never, never would I have known that transfer station was going to be in Ward 5, and I wouldn't have told my residents. That wouldn't have happened. And you asked the question, would I have called an emergency meeting? Yes. So up until just a few months ago, did I know that Ward 5 would be the place that they put that transfer station. I was under the impression that it was going to be in Ward 10. And because Ward 10 is close, the only thing that separates, now that I know, Ward 10 and 5 is railroad tracks. So I went to their meetings, I did, but I was under the impression that it wouldn't affect Ward 5. That's the only reason I did not have a Ward 5 meeting, emergency Ward 5 meeting. And yes, I have my meetings every other month.
Yeah, and just one other thing. And I guess this is the thing that is so disturbing. Typically, when something this big comes before this body, the first person who actually has the information and opportunity to sit down, an opportunity to ask questions, to be informed about the project, is the ward council person. So I'm trying to understand at what point did someone from this administration not think or find it important enough to pick up the phone, send an email, to inform Councilman Hanna of the project? And I've got to ask somebody to respond to that. I've got to ask somebody from the administration to respond to that. Please, please, thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of Council, Akron has sought a solution to the Fountain Street waste transfer station for several years, many years by the testimony of many of you, a process which was started under previous administrations, under previous councils in large part, in order to be able to decommission the current Fountain Street waste transfer station while continuing to serve our residents in removing household garbage. Under Mayor Malik's leadership and direction, administration officials and several members of City Council went above and beyond in our public engagement efforts to ensure stakeholders were fully aware of and could engage in discussion and debate regarding a proposed Archwood Avenue facility on the border of both Wards 5 and Wards 10. These are steps taken beyond the requirement that the City Planning Department notices. On May 16th, Director of Sustainability and Resiliency Casey Shevlin and I met with the Ward 5, Ward 6, and Ward 10 council members in person here at City Hall. Director Shevlin offered a full description of the history, the needs, and the current status of the proposed waste transfer station, and we gave the address of the proposed site on Archwood Avenue. Director Shevlin also provided handouts with the entire details and addresses of all of the site selection processes. During this discussion, we learned that the Ward 5 councilman would not be hosting a meeting in June, as he holds meetings every other month, as has been shared. Ward 10 and Ward 6 council members kindly offered to co-host their June meetings with Ward 5 to include his residents. The stated purpose of these meetings was to give residents the opportunity to meet WM representatives, to learn more about WM's proposal for the new eco-center on Archwood, and to facilitate further dialogue and discussion. The administration also exceeded requirements by increasing the written notice distance from adjacent properties only to neighbors within 1,000 feet to the west into Ward 5 and 1,500 feet to the east in Ward 10, in order that we would be able to engage more residents of these neighborhoods. On June 14th, the administration released a press release advising of the proposed transfer station, the upcoming conditional use process, and the dates and times of all of the ward meetings where the topic would be on the agenda. On June 15th and 16th, Director Shevlin and I walked these very same areas door to door in Ward 5 and Ward 10 and provided residents with a fact sheet about the process. Included in that fact sheet were also the dates of the upcoming meetings in Wards 10 and Ward 6, co-hosted with Ward 5. When we were able to speak to residents, we encouraged them to attend these upcoming meetings. In June, members of the city administration held and participated in several in-person meetings with the public and WM, including council members' ward meetings, meetings with the Facts Group and Middlebury neighbors, so residents could get information about the project and ask questions of the WM. The administration also did outreach to local businesses. The administration facilitated tours of the WM's Oakwood facility, hosted by WM, in June and July, and understand that WM continued to meet with residents and stakeholders, field questions about their project, and offer additional tours. In July, I re-engaged in phone conversation with the Ward 5 councilman ahead of his ward meeting, and Director Shevlin and I attended that meeting on July 18th. We hoped that we might be able to raise the waste transfer station at that Ward 5 meeting and ensure that residents were aware and had an opportunity to have their questions addressed. Unfortunately, with a very full agenda that evening, we were not able to speak. The waste transfer station on Fountain Street has been a blight on the Middlebury community for decades. The WM proposal would see the decommissioning of the Fountain Street facility, which was built prior to the existence of the Ohio EPA and city regulations. Granting the WM conditional use permit would allow for the construction of a new facility meeting the higher standards set forth by bodies like the Ohio EPA, complying with the city's conditional use requirements, and incorporating technological advances and current best practice in waste management. The administration has worked with members of City Council who were willing to host meetings in their wards. We walked the streets of Ward 5 and Ward 10 to directly engage with residents. In cooperation with WM, the administration offered tours of the Oakwood facility so residents and business owners could see for themselves what the new eco-center will look like, sound like, and even smell like. Throughout this entire process, the city administration, at the direction of Mayor Malik, has been committed to thoughtful, transparent engagement with council and the public, which we believe is represented in the efforts we have laid out. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilman Fusco?
Yes, thank you. On the issue of time and engaging public, I know, and it's difficult to say some of this, just in that I can't imagine, excuse me, what our colleague has gone through these last several months with the advent of the fire. And I know he has had a lot to deal with. But the thing of it is that in terms of engagement, without question, there's more could have been done. However, a lot has been, I think. I have here, and I'm happy to share, and that is for the Planning Commission meeting, which was held July 12th, 177 folks were notified. It was well above the typical range that we typically do have. So 177 folks were notified. In terms of the public hearing that the committee as a whole had, okay, the notices went out with 177 people with regards to that. And typically on when the Planning Commission meets, as we all know, we get notification of those meetings in advance, and then we get the minutes of the previously held meeting. And Here, right here, I have the memorandum, excuse me, I need some water, I think, on July 12th, whenever they had met and first read in this piece, and it says on it clearly, and like I said, it says Ward 5, Councilperson Hannah, so this is in July, and so we knew about it then, and it was all there, and they took time on it from what I understand. And so with that, I'm still going to request time. I can't, I'm not going to answer for all of the leadership. I'm just going to answer for myself, but I will vote for time.
Thank you, Councilman Fusco. We do have a motion on the floor that is, Councilwoman Amobian, did you have another comment or question?
I just wanted to call the question so we could just go.
Perfect, thank you. So we have a motion on the floor and a second, and that is to take the vote tonight. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. Roll call.
Bolden. Boys.
Nay.
Connor. Davis. DeShazier.
Nay.
Fusco.
Nay.
Garrett.
Nay.
Hannah.
Nay.
Kamer. Lombardo. McKittrick.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Nay.
The motion fails. There were 5 ayes and 8 nays, so the vote will not be taken tonight.
Thank you. Councilman Kamer?
Could we do a roll call on that? Like,
Sure. Roll call?
That's what we did.
You want to redo the vote?
We did a roll call.
Sure.
That's,
We just did a roll call.
is you get another way? Okay. Okay. All right, thank you. So now we are going to move on. You still got a question, Councilman Kamer? No, I'm good. You good? Okay. Councilwoman Amobian, do you have a question?
Yes. Do we know when we will do this? When we plan to vote on this?
The request from the ward council person was before this body took a vote and took a stance that there would be a Ward 5 meeting held. I don't know if Councilman Hannah would like to get up and provide some information in terms of what he's working on to make that happen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have contacted Waste Management today, and I requested a ward meeting in Ward 5 on the 17th of this month. I have not heard back from Waste Management as of this day in time.
So the ward council person is trying to arrange a meeting in Ward 5, have put out a request for WM to be there, and he has not had a response yet. So that is the wait, just so that you know, Councilwoman Amobian. Okay. That concludes our old business. We'll now move into new legislation.
Item number 1, offered by Lombardo, ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of publicly advertising for bids with CDWG LLC for the Cisco phone system annual subscription licensing and support and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lombardo?
Consent agenda, please.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 2, offered by Lombardo, ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of not to exceed $519,491.08 of bonds to pay in anticipation of the collection of special assessments heretofore levied, the property owner's portion of the cost of improving certain streets in the city, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lombardo?
The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of rules.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you, Madam President. This is to authorize the issuance and sale of the new 2024 special assessment improvement bonds for the 2021 and 2022 sidewalk program.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended and the committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 3, offered by Lombardo, ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of not to exceed $565,164.87 of bonds to pay in anticipation of the collection of special assessments heretofore levied, the property owner's portion of the cost of improving certain streets in the city, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lombardo,
The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you, Madam President. Just as in the previous piece of legislation, this is for the 2022 and 2023 resurfacing program for the sale of these bonds.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended and the committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 4, offered by Kamer, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids for temporary and permanent concrete installation over excavations of the divisions of water distribution and sewer maintenance, approving specifications therefore and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer,
Consent agenda.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 5, offered by Kamer, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee without the formality of publicly advertising for bids to enter into a contract or contracts with GPD Group for design services to improve the water reclamation facility, secondary treatment, and electrical processes, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer,
Consent agenda.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 6, offered by Kamer, ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a sponsorship agreement with Appalachia Ohio Alliance for the Water Resource Restoration Sponsor Program projects for the Laurel Run Headwaters Protection, Sensley and Beamer additions, BTG additions to Salt Creek Narrows, and Post and Farm 2 addition projects, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer,
Consent agenda.
this item will also be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 7, offered by Kamer, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to apply for, and if awarded, expend grant funds from the Environmental Protection Agency Solid Waste Infrastructure for Recycling Grant Program to support the Akron Public Works Yard Waste Organics and Recycling Campaign Yard Work Program, and to enter into a grant agreement or agreements with the EPA, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer,
Committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Nothing further.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 8, offered by Kamer, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts with the Ohio Department of Transportation to replace a 6-inch water main crossing and upsize to an 8-inch water main as part of the Kenmore Leg Improvement Project, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer,
Consent agenda.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda. That does conclude our new legislation for this evening. We'll now move into committee assignments. Rules, Councilman McKittrick.
2 p.m.
Public Safety, Councilman McKittrick.
2:50.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Lombardo.
3 p.m.
Parks and Recreation, Councilwoman Connor. Planning and Economic Development, Councilman Fusco. Housing and Neighborhood Assistance, Councilman Fusco. Public Service, Councilman Kamer.
2 p.m.
Health and Social Services, Councilwoman Amobian. Is there anything else coming before this body at this time? Seeing and hearing none, is there a motion for adjournment? Oh, Councilman Garrett has his hand up, I'm sorry. Councilman Garrett,
Greetings, Madam President, colleagues. Hope all is well. Today, I would like to address the body. Not too long ago, in Ward 5, there was a shooting. And I just think it's everyone's responsibility as an at-large to help out in the different wards when it's needed. I hosted an event at the community center, And during that time, we assisted individuals with Ring cameras and just had a chance to hear from the residents. Madam President, I thank you for putting together this time for us. But this Saturday, October the 19th, I'll be assisting Councilman Johnny Hanna in Ward 5. This Saturday, October the 19th, at the B&V Community Resource Center, I'll be hosting a dialogue with the residents. And during that time, I'll be asking those questions, what can we do to help you? And so I just want you to know that, Mr. Hanna, you're not alone. We're here to help and we're here to assist. That's our role. So October the 19th at 9 a.m., please join me at the B&V Center, and I'll be inviting Waste Management and whoever else interested. I think it's really important that we take the opportunity to talk to our residents. I thank you for this time, Madam President.
Thank you so much, Councilman. Is there a motion for adjournment, or Councilman Fusco?
I probably should just sit down, I'm sure. A lot of people would appreciate that. I just think it's important to clear the air and to make sure everyone is aware. And I get it. Having been an East Side resident 60 years of my life, and understand and empathize with communities that have to shoulder things like a transfer station, things like a landfill, things like a misdemeanor facility. But I want to make sure that we recall all the history. I just don't want to pick on a little piece of it. I think we need to look at all of it. Like, where was the Hardy Road landfill located? Where was the misdemeanor facility? The jail, we know where that's at. That's in South Akron. The misdemeanor facility was in North Akron. Goodyear Heights right next to Goodyear Heights was a landfill, which has now been decommissioned. And so, I forgot the one piece, Mr. Lutta was here, but the wastewater treatment center, you know where that's at. And those folks there have had to deal with that and the smells, which they no longer have to deal with. For what reason? Technology. So I just thought we need to really remember everything, where everything has been located. And, each side of town had their own kind of like landfill, I suspect, back in the old days. And now with technology and everything has advanced so much, then I believe that we are now in a better place than we were in the past. But hopefully we'll be able to get that meeting over there, that much needed, much overdue meeting in Ward 5, and then perhaps one day this council could vote on this.
Thank you, Councilman Fusco. Councilwoman Boyce.
Thank you, Madam President. As I sat here listening to the presentations of folks, and especially sitting here on Thursday listening to the presentations from this gallery, one thing struck me. Many people stood up and said they felt disrespected. They felt disrespected because no one held a meeting in their ward to confront this issue, to tell truths about this issue, and to invite Waste Management in to present their facts of this issue. As the Ward 9 councilperson, I hold ward meetings every month. The only months I don't hold ward meetings is when we vote, because my residents like to get together on the first Tuesday of the month. But seeing that planning commission agenda, and knowing months before this that this was coming to my ward, I'm telling you right now, there is no way I'm not holding a meeting. And you folks in Ward 5 deserve a meeting. That's the reason I voted to postpone this vote, and the only reason I voted to postpone this vote, because you deserve the respect of having these officials in your neighborhood. I believe the administration has gone above and beyond 170, is that what we heard? 177 letters, hand knocking on doors. That is what you do when you're a good steward of your community. And I'm telling you right now, this meeting needs to happen, and this vote needs to happen. It's unfair to these parties who have been working decades to find a location, and it's unfair to these residents of Ward 5. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman DeSazier.
I remember when I first came to Akron, I had met, at that time, Senator Oliver O'Kasich. Many of you might remember him. And he had this term when people had a lot of ambiguity amongst citizens. He said to me, he said, you know, young man, I think we're in a mel of a Hess. And his indication was that it was a real misunderstanding because of a communication snafu. So what I think people did tonight around this horseshoe is set the record straight and gave an opportunity for all citizens to be heard and for people who said they did not get the information to have an opportunity to have it ironed out. We're not looking for the guilty. We just want to make sure that everybody understands what is going on before there is a vote cast that will affect the lives of people in this community for eons into the future. Thank you much.
Thank you. Councilman Bolden?
Thank you, Madam President. I'm the newest member of council here. I've been here, just added up, 71 days. The first weekend I was on council, I took the ward map and went through it. I want to know where my ward begins, where it ends. I want to know everything. I get a little boundaries a little bit lost when it cuts here, cuts there. But I'm pretty confident I know everything is in my ward, where my ward is, what's going on in my ward. I too hold ward meetings. I missed the first month. We had one last month. We're having one this month, and they'll be every month then. I bring topics up to residents of what they, and I answer questions, what they want to talk about. Ward 8 is I hear a lot from other people that say, you know, you don't get a lot of this stuff. You don't get you're not going to get a trash place. You're going, well, it said earlier we had Artie Road. The one thing I want you all to remember, though, while Ward 8 is where it is, every time anyone flushes a toilet, it ends up in Ward 8.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bolden, for reminding us of that. I think one more. Councilwoman Connor?
Thank you so much. I just have a few minutes. I just want to remind everybody, when we talk about the residents of Ward 5, there are two groups of residents in Ward 5 here. There's the group in Middlebury that has stuck around with Fountain Street in their backyard for 30 years. And now we're asking them to wait longer. And we're asking them to wait longer because we didn't have meetings when we had ample time. I want to be real clear that I hope these meetings move quickly and that we can move forward on this, because asking people after 30 years that it's still not your turn is hard to take.
Thank you, Councilwoman Connor. Any other comments at this time? Is there a motion for adjournment? If there are no objections, meeting adjourned.
This concludes the live broadcast of Akron City Council. Margot Somerville.